Is your money really your money? Imagine this. You receive a salary. The money lands in your account. You look at the balance and think, finally, this is my money. But what if I told you that most people spend their entire lives earning money they never truly control? What if the biggest threat to your financial freedom isn't inflation, taxes, your boss, or even the economy? What if it's your own psychology? Because here's a strange reality. The average person believes they make rational decisions about money. Psychologists have spent decades proving otherwise. In fact, many of the choices you think are yours may have been influenced long before you ever made them. By advertisers, by social expectations, by childhood experiences, by emotions, and sometimes by people you've never met. So today we're exploring a disturbing question. Is your money really your money? Or are you simply managing it on behalf of forces you don't even notice? Let's begin. The illusion of ownership. When we think of ownership, we imagine control. If you own a house, you control it. If you own a car, you control it. If you own money, you control how it's used. Simple, right? Not exactly. Behavioral psychologists discovered something fascinating. Humans often confuse possession with control. Just because something belongs to us doesn't mean we're actually directing its use. Think about your last impulse purchase. Did you carefully analyze whether you needed it? Or did you feel an urge and justify the purchase afterward? Researchers have found that emotions frequently drive spending decisions before logic arrives to explain them. In other words, the emotional brain spends. The rational brain writes the report afterward. We like to imagine ourselves as the CEO of our finances. But often we're more like a spokesperson explaining decisions already made by deeper psychological processes. Your brain was never designed for modern money. To understand why money controls us, we need to travel back thousands of years. For most of human history, there were no credit cards, no online shopping, no investment portfolios, no one-click purchases. Our ancestors lived in environments where immediate rewards often meant survival. If food was available, eat it. If resources were available, gather them. Tomorrow wasn't guaranteed. The human brain evolved around immediate needs. Modern money creates a problem. Financial success often requires the exact opposite behavior: saving, delaying gratification, ignoring temptations, thinking years ahead. Unfortunately, your ancient brain doesn't naturally prioritize any of those things. This creates an internal conflict. Part of you wants long-term security. Another part wants instant pleasure. And instant pleasure usually wins. Psychologists call this present bias. We consistently value immediate rewards more than future rewards. That's why spending feels easier than saving. It's not because you're bad with money, it's because your brain was built for a different world. The strange psychology of spending. Here's where things become even more interesting. Most purchases aren't actually about the product. They're about emotions. People don't buy luxury watches simply to tell time. People don't buy expensive cars simply to travel. People don't buy designer clothing simply to stay warm. If function were the goal, much cheaper alternatives would work perfectly. Instead, many purchases satisfy psychological needs: status, belonging, identity, recognition, security. Humans are social creatures. We constantly evaluate where we stand relative to others, often without realizing it. This means money becomes more than currency. It becomes a tool for social signaling, a way of communicating who we are, or who we hope to become. Sometimes we're not buying products, we're buying stories. The story that we're successful, the story that we're attractive, the story that we're respected, the story that we're finally enough. And stories can become incredibly expensive. Why rich people and poor people sometimes feel equally broke. Here's a psychological paradox. People often assume financial stress disappears once income increases. Yet many high earners remain anxious about money. Why? Because human satisfaction is relative, not absolute. Psychologists call this hedonic adaptation, the tendency to quickly adjust to improved circumstances. The salary that once felt life-changing eventually becomes normal. The car that once felt luxurious becomes ordinary. The dream lifestyle becomes the new baseline. Then the cycle begins again. You earn more, spend more, adapt, want more, repeat. This is why some people earn 10 times more than others, yet experience similar levels of financial stress. The target keeps moving. Because the problem isn't always money, sometimes it's the psychology surrounding money, the invisible owners of your wallet. Now let's ask an uncomfortable question. If your money is truly yours, why do companies spend billions trying to influence how you spend it? Because human decisions are surprisingly predictable. Advertisers understand something many people don't. Humans rarely buy based on logic alone. We buy based on emotion, then justify with logic. Fear sells, scarcity sells, social proof sells, urgency sells, status sells. Think about phrases like limited time offer, only a few left, bestseller. Everyone is talking about it. These messages aren't random. They're carefully designed to trigger psychological shortcuts. The goal isn't necessarily to make you think. The goal is to make you feel. And feelings often spend money faster than reason. In a very real sense, countless organizations compete daily for ownership of your attention. And wherever attention goes, money often follows. Childhood may be controlling your finances. One of the most overlooked influences on money behavior comes from childhood. Many people inherit financial beliefs without realizing it. Maybe you grew up hearing, money doesn't grow on trees. We can't afford that. Rich people are greedy. Money solves everything. Over time, these messages become internal programs. They shape how you save, how you spend, how you negotiate, how you invest, even how much wealth you believe you deserve. Psychologists sometimes refer to these as money scripts, unconscious beliefs that guide financial behavior. The surprising part? Many adults never examine them. They simply act them out, year after year, like software running in the background. Imagine trying to control your finances while invisible beliefs control you. That's why understanding your relationship with money can be more important than understanding money itself. The most expensive emotion. If one emotion has probably cost humanity more money than any other, it's comparison. Humans naturally compare themselves with others. Social media has amplified this tendency dramatically. Every day we're exposed to carefully curated versions of other people's lives, their vacations, their homes, their achievements, their lifestyles. What we rarely see are the debts, the sacrifices, the stress, the reality behind the image. Psychologists call this social comparison theory. We evaluate ourselves by comparing ourselves to others. The danger is obvious. When your financial decisions are driven by comparison, your money stops serving your goals. It starts serving someone else's image. And that's a terrible investment, because no matter how much you spend, there will always be someone with more. The comparison game has no finish line, only participants. So, is your money really your money? At this point, the answer becomes clear. Legally, yes, your money belongs to you. Psychologically, the answer is more complicated. If your spending is controlled by impulse, fear, status, comparison, advertising, emotional wounds, or unconscious beliefs, then your money may not be fully serving you. Ownership isn't about possession. Ownership is about direction. The person who controls where money goes is the person who truly owns it. And that person isn't always the account holder. Sometimes it's an emotion, sometimes it's a habit, sometimes it's a fear, sometimes it's a desire to impress strangers. How to take your money back. The solution isn't becoming obsessed with money, it's becoming conscious of your behavior. Before any major purchase, ask yourself, what problem am I trying to solve? What emotion am I trying to satisfy? Would I still want this if nobody else knew I owned it? Am I buying utility or identity? These questions create something powerful, a pause, and that pause interrupts automatic behavior. Psychologists often say that awareness creates choice. The moment you become aware of an influence, its power begins to weaken. The goal isn't perfection. The goal is intentionality. To ensure your money reflects your values rather than your impulses, your goals rather than social pressure, your future rather than temporary emotions. Final thoughts. So is your money really your money? The surprising answer is, only if you're the one deciding what it does. Money itself is neither good nor bad, it simply amplifies behavior. If you understand your psychology, money becomes a tool. If you don't, it becomes a leash. The greatest financial skill isn't earning. It isn't investing. It isn't budgeting. It's self-awareness. Because every financial decision is ultimately a psychological decision. And the people who master money are often the people who first learn to master themselves. The next time you look at your bank account, don't just ask how much money you have. Ask a deeper question. Who's actually controlling it? The answer might change the way you spend for the rest of your life.